Good afternoon. Welcome. I'd like to call to order the October 2013 meeting of the Board of Trustees for Johnson County Community College. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we'll have the roll call and recognition of visitors.
This evening's visitors include Dick Carter and Mark Ferguson.
Thank you. Welcome. Open forum is the section of the board agenda, a time for members of the community to provide comments to the board. There will be one open forum period during each regularly scheduled board meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless a significant number of people plan to speak. In that instance, the chair may limit a person's comments to less than 5 minutes. In order to be recognized, individuals must register at the door at each board meeting prior to the open forum agenda meeting. When addressing the board, registered speakers should be respectful and civil and should not address matters related to individual personnel matters with the college. We have one registered speaker at tonight's meeting, Nancy Carpenter. When you come to the podium, would you state your name, address, city, and state, and welcome.
Homework. Good evening. I'm Nancy Carpenter, and let's see, it was address. What was I supposed to say, Dr. Cole?
Address, city, and state.
14681 Crider Road in Bonner Springs, Kansas. And I'm the chair of the math department here, and right now the math department is all a Twitter because and not that kind of Twitter, just we get very excited about things. We don't get to share that a whole lot. So when this came up this week, it was something I could not resist coming and sharing with you. You're getting your homework paper. A few semesters back, one of our Calc 2 professors, Brenda Edmonds, in collaboration with a fellow in Illinois, set up a project for her students to do. And what the project involved was designing a drinking vessel. And they were given parameters, how tall did it need to be, how big was the base, some other things that they needed to do. Then the calculus came into this. They needed to use their Calc 1 skills to design a silhouette of this drinking vessel. So that's what they did. They designed the silhouette. Then using their Calc 2 skills, they took the silhouette and spun it, visually in their minds and on paper. They spun it, and then they could calculate what was the surface area, what was the volume. And this was a huge calculus project that they were doing. And you actually have the assignment there in front of you, and there's a rubric on how it was graded on the back. And then you have one of the projects that one of the students turned in. And you can see the quality of work that these kids were doing. Well, this semester, Kathleen O'Neill was teaching the class, and she added a little twist to it. If the students could take their design and format it to be able to be 3D printed, then our 3D printer, that is our computer-aided drafting program owns, they would print it for them. So the last page that you have there shows the 6 different designs that were created that the students went out on their own to figure out how to format it for the 3D printer. The students voted on which of the different designs they thought that was the best, and then they sent that information over to Tom Hughes, and then this is why we are incredibly excited. This is the drinking vessel that was created by our collaboration between our calculus students and our drafting students. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass this around so you can see it and look at it. There is a paper towel stuffed in the bottom because it leaks a little bit. I'll pass it around to you. And as it's coming around, I'll share with you a little bit of how this printing process worked. So this vessel, once it was formatted to be able to be printed and sent to the printer, actually took 43 hours to print. Wow. 43 hours. And there actually was enough time for the calc class to be invited by Tom Hughes to go over to the printer and actually see it being printed. It was about halfway up by the time it was done. They can set the software to either print. When it prints in layers. So, one layer is printed, the next layer is printed, the next layer is printed. Each layer is only 7/1000ths of an inch wide. So it's incredibly a huge number of slices that are going to be printed. They actually set this printer to print in a honeycomb pattern, so it is hollow in between the 2 layers. The whole idea of this collaboration is for these kids to see that the stuff that they're designing using their math and using their calculus then really becomes something. And it also emphasized to them the amount of, or the importance of doing a prototype. Because if we were to remove that paper towel, and I'll go ahead and do that. You need to be careful with it because what it's leaking is not necessarily good stuff.
She says now.
You'll see that this really would not hold water, even though there's a hole. So even though the calculus design was good, there's some glitch somewhere. This would have to go back to the production people to be able to figure out what was wrong with this before you would then take it in the manufacturing and actually start creating it. The reason that it is stuffed is as this is layered, if this layer is printed, this is going to collapse because the stuff's got to have to dry. So the software is smart enough to realize that it has to build a collar around it to support that structure until it dries. Well, we don't want that collar to be there. The collar is actually made of a different polymer that they then soak this in a diluted lye solution, and the collar gets dissolved, but it gets up in that honeycomb, so we have to keep its little diaper on until it all the way releases. But we are very excited about this. We're very excited about the collaboration between the departments, the transfer and the career being able to work together so that our transfer students can really see the kind of value of what it is they're doing. We get to keep this one. The team that designed it, they made a little one, so they get to keep it. And there's also one being kept over in drafting. And we hope that every semester our Calc 2 teachers will continue doing this, so we get this wonderful little collection that's been built. But I wanted to start your evening on a bright note so you could see what some of our kids are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I get an extra copy of that, please? I did, yes.
I think I see the problem.
Nancy, this board has worked hard to try and become better advocates of the wonderful things going on in this college. And this is just incredible. I don't even know where to begin in terms of even understanding the concept of 3D printing. I'd seen a piece on it a couple of weeks ago and thought that can't be true. So this is really incredible.
When I should say, the drafting folks did want me to tell you, as you touched this, you could see that it was faceted, that if the drafting folks had been able to get their mitts on it a little bit more, they would have smoothed it. Because they know how to then do that.
Well, it's a great example of collaboration between your department and drafting.
Thank you for giving me the chance.
Thank you for taking time to come and share that with us. Appreciate it very much. Awards and recognition.
Dr. Cook, we have.
Okay, thank you. We have moved the student report up near the front of the agenda in spirit of Students First, and tonight Mr. Elliot Rogers is here. Thank you for being here, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Over the last month, Student Senate has continued assuming its regular duties for the year, such as approving and funding clubs and organizations, planning annual events, and tabling for student life initiatives. Newly approved student organizations include St. Paul's Outreach, JCCC Yo-Yo Club, and JCCC Zen. Student Senate has funded requests for the Model United Nations Club and the Veterans Club, and has met to hear a request from the Graphic Design Club, as well as 2 requests from the Hospitality Management Club. On October 14th, Patrick, Russell, Allison, and I gave a presentation to the Student Senate regarding the Strategic Planning Task Force and how it will interact with and impact the student body. As of today, we are able to promote student surveys to the student body, collecting information and input. During this week, the Student Senate is co-hosting a These Hands Don't Hurt campaign for domestic violence awareness. Throughout the week, we will be tabling in the Commons building for anti-domestic violence pledges, as well as donations for goods for Safe Home, which is a domestic violence shelter. Moving forward, Student Senate has just begun accepting nominations for JCCC Gives, our annual community charity drive, and is in the process of planning Trick or Treat for Kids, an annual Halloween event collaborated with campus clubs. Thank you.
Elliot, thank you. Great work. I had the opportunity, as did, I believe, Trustees Sharp and Musel, and I'm probably going to leave somebody out, at the scholarship luncheon. and really appreciated how you engaged students in calling upon them and working with them, and appreciate your leadership to the college.
Thank you. It's an honor to meet those students and then to be able to represent them to you all. It really is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
College lobbyist report, Mr. Carter.
Good evening. Since the last time we met late in September, the month of October has really been about education in the public policy process, both K-12 and higher education. And I just wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things that have been going on that have at least engineered out of Topeka. The Supreme Court met for 3 days of arguments, approximately 3 days of arguments, to listen to the K-12 funding case. And we now wait with anticipation the decision that comes from that body. And if it's anything like what happened the last time around, it will be met with differing points of view by lawmakers in Topeka. I've listed a few items there where we think that the court will go, or how the legislature will react to what we anticipate is a decision that will request or require more money to be spent on K-12 education. And I'll let you take a look at those, the three bulleted, or rather the 4 or 5 bulleted items under that particular paragraph. I do believe that there will be some form of a mix of all of those items. It will be a blended response by the legislature. I think the governor is considering right now how his budget will look as they're working to put together their budget recommendations for the legislature in January. So that is definitely going to play a significant role in the legislative process next year as lawmakers return to Topeka, and as it is an election year. All of the decisions that are made around that school finance decision will drive the rest of the legislative agenda. The other thing that's getting ready to go on starting next week, although there's been lots of preparation and meetings by legislative liaisons at the Board of Regents level in preparation for a tour. Every 2 years or so, the Budget Committee takes a tour across the state and visits various institutions. This year, they'll be visiting all 6 of the state universities: Washburn University, Washburn Tech, and Fort Scott Community College. They will be starting that tour late next week. They will do a 2-day stint, take the weekend off, and then come back and do another 2 days to hit all of those institutions. The interesting thing is that through the Legislative Research Department, they collected questions from legislators that will be either on the tour or just legislators at large, and had about 61 questions that were submitted or sent out to the state universities. We actually had the opportunity to see what some of those questions looked like earlier this week when we had a couple of legislators that serve on those committees on our campus. And I'll touch on that briefly later, because that was a very positive experience and a good opportunity for us to showcase some of what goes on here at JCCC. But the point is this will be a very in-depth tour, and there are certain legislators that really have in the line of sights higher education, mainly the state universities, and their budgets and the budgetary process. And so it will be interesting to see what the outcome of this particular 4-day statewide tour is, and I'll have much more to report to you the next time that we gather. The other thing is, and I think that legislators themselves will be discussing this early in November, the Special Committee on Education will be meeting the 6th and 7th of November. There's no agenda out yet for that particular meeting. It will be K-12 for sure, but certainly there will be conversations held about the statewide tour that is upon us next week. So those are some interesting things that are going on related to the public policy process and higher education, as well as K-12 education in the state of Kansas. It's worth mentioning just because I think things are pretty much on target with the state revenues. They're down about $11 million, but they're still that number is not large enough to say that we're off by any great means. The figures were reduced to match the reduced budget that is coming for 2014 and 2015. So I think things are pretty much on par with the receipts at the state level. But it does, once again, play into the overall discussion about where do we go with school finance? How does that impact the rest of state government? And then finally, we have had some legislative visitors on campus, most recently for the opening ceremony of the Hospitality and Culinary Arts building, We had several House members that were present. And then, and Dr. Sopcich may even wish to speak to this a little bit. We were able to host Representative Lunn and Senator Melcher on Tuesday for a campus visit, and it really was a great discussion, a great dialogue to have with those particular lawmakers who serve on education committees as well as Senate Ways and Means and House Appropriations for their respective roles that they serve in the state legislature. We were able to highlight a health information system program that we have, and we're getting ready to, I think, approve a degree this evening. We were able to view and look at what really is the state-of-the-art, and I know that you know this, but it's our story to tell, state-of-the-art facility over at the Culinary Arts Building. And once again, stopped through the healthcare simulation lab, and then finally our partnership with industry, private industry, over at BNSF. And it really did open up the opportunity to talk about how we're training people to go into the workforce immediately, and so that when they leave JCCC with a certificate or with that education or with that degree, that they are employable right away. Dr. Sopcich, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to.
I was going to talk about this later. Additionally, that visit was scheduled for about 60 minutes. It went for 3 hours. So after we finished with BNSF, we then kind of did a spontaneous little trip through our ATB building, specifically the technical side of it, which was very well received. There was high interest in welding, things like that. The focus was jobs, and what is our college doing to put people in a position to get a job and then be in the workplace. And so it was a very focused 3 hours in that area. But it went well, and special thanks to Dick, and later I'll read a variety of the individuals who assisted on that.
And I would just conclude then my report with the statement that we are working on now, preparing for our legislative breakfast events, and we've mixed those up a little bit. Last year we did a reception because it was a year where we had some new faces in the mix, but we're going to return to some of the smaller events where we have the opportunity to dialogue, and those of you that have been to those recall how nice those are for just having a conversation with our Johnson County delegation. And so we'll be working to schedule those. We may throw a lunch in there as well, just to give some variety to legislators depending on their schedule. They would like a little opportunity to figure out where they fit in, because breakfast doesn't always work. But we're working on those events right now. So you'll be seeing some information in the coming months for November and early December about attending those events.
Dick, about a week ago or two, time goes by quickly, the Supreme Court was deliberating on the K-12 suit, or the Attorney General's office, I guess. When do you anticipate a decision on that little amount of money?
Sure. I certainly believe it will be before the legislature returns in January, that first Tuesday in January, or the second Tuesday in January. It's all a political game, and as you know, there's a battle between the courts and the legislature and the governor's office about who should be doing what, who should be directing who, how Supreme Court justices should be appointed. That all plays into this little game that's going on. And I don't pretend to know when that date is, but I do believe it'll be before the legislature reconvenes in January.
I understand the check at risk is between $500 and $700 million, $600 million?
That certainly would be north of the figures that we're hearing, but certainly not out of line. I don't know how they account for inflation or the increased cost of some of the testing required with Common Core standards, but certainly we're looking north of 440 million.
Any questions from the trustees? Thank you, Mr. Carter. Appreciate it very much. I was remiss in welcoming back Trustee Drummond. It seems like it wasn't that long ago you were here, but welcome back. We're pleased to have you on the board and wish you the very, very best. Committee reports. Mr. Musil, management recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm reporting in lieu of Mr. Stewart, who is out of town. The Management Committee met at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, October 2nd. Trustee Stewart, Trustee Lindstrom, and I attended. The minutes are on page 1 and 2, and the report attached to those minutes runs through page 23 of the board packet. We had a number of things we discussed. I'm going to start with the 5 recommendations that require action tonight. The first one is a recommendation on page 2 of the packet is a follow-up item related to the programming and management of the Brown and Gold Club. and the transfer to Shepherd Center Central. Last month, we approved a special rate of $16 an hour for Johnson County residents 60 and over as a result of the club merging with Shepherd Center Central. This recommendation is to transfer funds that have already been collected from annual dues for the Brown and Gold Club, which are currently in the Student Activities Fund, and to transfer those to Shepherd Center Central in order to maintain those members' benefits. And so it is a recommendation of the college administration that the Board of Trustees authorize a transfer of $22,825 from the Student Activity Fund to Shepherd Center Central, and I would so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Second item is a renewal of the annual contract for office supplies. It's on page 6 and 7 of the board packet. It's a renewal of a contract that was originally awarded to Office Max, Inc. You'll notice that the award is not the low bid, but it was a combination of various factors in the office supply products that the college uses each year. This is a renewal for November 1st, 2013 through October 31st, 2014. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the renewal of the annual contract for office supplies with Office Max, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $240,000, and I would so move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The third action item is an annual bid for pavement maintenance and concrete restoration around the campus. It's reflected on page 8 and 9 of the board packet. And this is simply annual work that is done around the campus on an on-call basis. It is a recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of college administration to approve the low bid of $148,072 from McConnell and Associates Corp., Inc., plus an additional $14,807 to allow for contingencies for possible unforeseen costs, for a total expenditure not to exceed $162,879 for pavement maintenance and concrete restoration, and I would make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The second or fourth in this exciting list is a renewal of the annual contract for network infrastructure and equipment services. It's described on pages 10 and 11 of the board packet. It's a renewal of an annual contract for network infrastructure equipment and services, November 1, 2013 through October 31, 2014. The contract was bid in 2011 and awarded to CDW Government LLC as the low bidder, providing the best discount, and this renewal represents the last year of this contract, at which point it will be rebid. It is a recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of college administration to approve the renewal of the annual contract for network infrastructure equipment and services with CDW Government LLC in an amount not to exceed $850,000, and I would so move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The final action item is a bid for the Student Center and CLB carpet replacement, reflected on pages 12 and 13 of the board packet. It is a recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the low bid of $103,900 from Regents Flooring Company, Inc. for the Student Center and CLB building carpet replacement, and I make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Other items that were discussed at the meeting included a review of the college's insurance policy renewals for liability policies. Tom Clayton made that report along with representatives of our risk management broker. There was a competitive quote received from Wright Specialty Insurance. After consideration and discussion, the committee understood that the college has accepted the renewal with incumbents United Educators for general and excess liability and Philadelphia Insurance Company for commercial auto. For discussion about the levels of the different coverages, how broad they were, what the costs were, and to try to ensure that the college is getting the best opportunity for the best coverage at the best price. We also heard from Kate Allen, who presented the fiscal year report for the foundation on both financing and fundraising. She reported a strong investment income for 2013, the fiscal year ending June 30th. The total endowment reached an all-time high of $18 million, and the foundation also dispersed a record $963,000 in scholarships to students. As other committees have received, we received an initial presentation from Dr. Korb about the benefit task force and proposed recommendations to be brought forward by January 2014 to help make the college's healthcare benefits more sustainable in the future. I would note that is a very detailed and a very complex and a very complicated matter that we'll have to figure out come January. I do appreciate the heads up on that from Dr. Korb. Don Perkins presented the fiscal year 2014-2015 proposed budget guidelines, which appear on pages 3 and 4 of the packet. And as we start the budget process already for 2014-2015, these guidelines will determine what our administration is going to put together for us in terms of what the revenues might be and what the expenses might be. So please review those carefully and let Don and his team know if you have questions, because we start the process very early. Don also presented a schedule showing the general and PTE fund cash balances as of June 30th, 2013, appearing on pages 15 and 16. And that's a great breakdown of how we end the year, what cash is being brought forward into the next fiscal year. The monthly report of sole source bids was reviewed. The summary award of bids between $25,000 and $100,000 was reviewed and approved. We got some capital acquisition updates, and then Denise Moore provided an update on fiscal year 2014 information technology infrastructure plan shown on pages 19 through 21. It was a long and productive meeting, and I would stand for questions. Actually, I'll sit down, but I'll answer them if I can.
Any questions of Trustee Musil?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your report. Learning quality, Trustee Lindstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Learning Quality Committee meeting minutes are on pages 24, 25, and 26 of your board packet. As you will note, the meeting was held at 8 a.m. on Monday, October 7th. The meeting was directed by Dr. Korb, and there were 4 presenters. Steve Hansen, Chair of the Educational Affairs Committee, discussed curriculum, which will be effective beginning the spring of 2014 semester, including a Fire Services Associate's Arts degree program, which has been modified to bring it into KBOR, Kansas Board of Regents compliance, Health Information Systems Associate of Science degree usage program, which is a new program that will prepare students to support the health information system industry, the Health Information Implementation and Support Specialist Certificate Program, and the Health Information Workflow Management and Training Specialist Certificate Program have each been modified from 20 to 21 total program hours. And finally, the new course HCIS-267 has been created, integrating the content of 2 deleted courses, HCIS-266, Vendor-Specific Electronic Health Records, and HCIS-276, Usability and Factors, into a more cohesive curriculum content delivery. The second presenter was Deb Elder from the Health Information Technology Grant Program Director. She explained a 3-year history of the Health Information Technology Program, which initially offered non-credit classes only. Now, in addition to non-credit, the program offers credit certificates and a new Associates of Science degree. It incorporates the expert industry faculty and excellent advisory board industry members. Third presenter was Dave Lingerfeld, Associate Professor and Chair of Health Information Technology Systems. He discussed the program's flexibility delivery mode and the various partnerships with Cerner, KU, and Sprint. Finally, Clarissa Craig, Associate Vice President of Instructions, provided an articulation update and stated that 32 courses have been approved by KBOR as part of the Kansas system-wide seamless transfer. It was explained that a new reading readiness requirement will be implemented the spring of 2014 As such, English 121, reading 126, or college reading readiness will be required for nearly all courses that did not previously require this prerequisite. There has been well, I'll come back to that. It is further noted that some faculty have expressed concerns about the potential impact on enrollment for the spring semester, and that communication for this new requirement is essential, especially to College Now students, so that they can establish eligibility in time for enrollment in the semester start. In conclusion, it was noted that the impact of this new prerequisite requirement will be monitored closely. And my understanding in talking to Andy was that that will be a co-requisite as opposed to a prerequisite. I would welcome any comments for others in attendance.
We have reviewed that effort. There was some concerns, and we've done the best we can to address the concerns for this coming enrollment period. And the most important thing is to note that, yes, instead of just being a prerequisite, students will be provided the opportunity as a co-requisite, which allows concurrency in their enrollment process.
Great. Any questions of Trustee Lindstrom and learning quality?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Human Resources, and I guess that's me. Human Resources Committee met on Tuesday, October 1st at 8:30 a.m. As Trustee Musil has indicated, Dr. Korb provided an extensive review of the Benefit Task Force recommendations, so I won't reiterate that. It was a long discussion. I really would like to thank all of the members of the task force who've spent a lot of time deliberating and moving forward, and as Trustee Musil said, we're looking at a target date, I think, of in January and implementation then. So a lot of work has been done. A lot of work continues to be done. I think I go back, Trustee Drummond, to some of your earlier comments about is what we're doing sustainable, and I think that theme has been consistent as we look ahead into where we go with that. So I really have nothing an additional to add to that. We also reviewed the RFP for medical every 3 years. We talked about conducting an audit and document during eligibility for participants in the medical plan. Reviewed some ideas about a stronger wellness initiative for employees. We had a very good news, I think, on our premium, Dr. Korb, and so I've always been one, I think a number of us have been, ways to look at incentivizing wellness, and we'll continue to review that. And I guess that's about it. Do you have anything to add to that, Dr. Korb? Any questions of me or Dr. Korb from Human Resources? We missed you, Trustee Sharp.
It was 6:30 my time, so
That's right. You were still out fooling around, weren't you? Yeah.
I think on vacation.
Yeah, well, that's, sorry about that. Any questions for Human Resources? Treasurer's Report, Trustee Lindstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased to present the Treasurer's Report for the month of ending August 31st, 2013, which can also be found on pages 29 through 39 in the packet. Briefly, here are a few highlights. On page 38, at the bottom of the page, please note that the fund balances as of August 31st, we have a book balance of $90.6 million with $20.1 million in outstanding encumbrances, leaving us with an unencumbered balance of $70.5 million. On page 30, you will note that the state aid payment of $11.1 million were received in August. Ad valorem distribution of $3.9 million was received in September and will be reflected in next month's report. Expenditures in the primary operating fund are within approved budgetary limits, and it would be the recommendation of the college administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Treasurer's Report for the month of August 2013, subject to the audit, and I would make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Does that conclude your report?
That concludes my report. Thank you.
It's time for Dr. Sopcich's report. I'd like to just say before he gives his report that, and to thank him, a couple of weeks back, our friends from Shawnee had a delegation in from Germany in their Sister City project, and Dr. Sopcich and staff arranged for a short notice tour, but I've received feedback from several of those folks that they were very impressed with your involvement, the staff's involvement. A number of them could not speak English, so the interpreter was very helpful, but they were very impressed with the college and the people they met, and as a report that Trustee Musil gave on jobs, they were very interested in the BNSF and what we're doing to help create training and skills for jobs. So I wanted to thank you for that and the staff. It was well received from our friends in Shawnee.
Thanks, Dr. Cook. Those kinds of tours are a lot of fun because this is a great place to show off and to take people through. So it's always, especially when they really can't even understand what I'm saying.
What was that?
Yeah, there we go. I'd like to thank Nancy Carpenter for sharing with us the accomplishment in the math department. Because that's fantastic, and the passion and enthusiasm was really infectious. But with all due respect to the math department, those types of things are going on in classrooms across our campus every day. And I think it's important for the trustees to note that. And that's a credit to everyone who's working in those classrooms, and primarily our faculty. I'm going to take you through a few things that happened over the past week. And while great things are going on in the classroom, additionally, outstanding events are happening every day on campus. For example, last Tuesday, and we mentioned this, Dr. Cook, you mentioned this, the foundation had its annual foundation dinner. 2 awards were given out. One was the Colleague of the Year to Professor Dave Smith from our culinary program, for his work with the Edible Schoolyard. Dave is a consummate professional and works very closely with the kids over there, trying to help them learn the importance of eating a vegetable and how to grow it and cook it. And it's an outstanding program. And also Dr. David Zamorowski won the U Spear Award for his dedication to community service and all that he's done here. But additionally, the highlight of the program was when Elliot Rogers kind of emceed the student portion. And we heard stories from some of our scholarship recipients that were very representative of incredible adversity in their lives. Powerful, powerful stories. And then we saw kind of a PowerPoint video by 2 of our nursing students who went with our nursing program to Uganda. And it kind of encapsulated their experience. I can tell you there was not a dry eye in the house. In fact, you couldn't get through that evening without shedding a tear. It was an incredible, incredible evening. And special kudos to Kate Allen and her staff for pulling that off. On Wednesday, October 9th, we had a young women's conference here. 150 high school students had the opportunity to visit our campus, to interact with many of our professionals here. And I'd like to point out, I believe Trustee Sharp was a part of that group, former Trustee Rail, Dr. Korb, and many in the audience played a part in that, I guess, seminar. And what an outstanding opportunity for those young women to have experienced role models and to see what people are doing in the workplace. And based on the folks that we have here associated with our college. So it's always great to get people like that to campus, and it's also a great recruiting tool. So hats off to Sheila Maupin for pulling that one off. On Thursday, October 10th, we hosted a luncheon honoring our Johnson County of the Year former trustee Lynn Mitchelson. Many of our former honorees were there. It's a great opportunity to celebrate the nearly $1 million that was awarded to students last year, and those were private dollars. A tremendous accomplishment. I remember back when I was involved with that, we were in the $200,000 range. So after I left, great advancements were made in that regard. On Thursday, October 11th, the KC Civic Council hosted a collection of future leaders here. Myself, I was joined with David Cook, who's a new leader of the Edwards campus for the University of Kansas, and also Prema Arazu, who is the new director for the program at K-State's Olathe campus. And it was an excellent opportunity to talk to a group from across the region. I can say that with this new leadership in place, we're very excited about the opportunities we have to work together. And what's really exciting about it is both of them are looking at our college as playing a critical role in demonstrating to the community the importance of JCERT and what it can do to help this county move forward. So we're very much looking forward to that. We had, on the same night, we had Friends with Taste. Friends with Taste is a support group for our new culinary building. And it took off like a rocket. We have 350 to 400 members. It's the largest support group that we've had. Literally overnight, so far it's generated over $30,000 to benefit the students in our hospitality and culinary program. It was so great that we're going to start another one called Friends Without Taste, and we think the membership could be a little less exclusive. So. On Friday, October 12th, we had an annual Fall Senior Day in the Hudson Auditorium that was full of high school seniors and their parents. And for those of us who've had that experience of going with our children and sitting in the audience, it's when you stand in front of them and are talking to them about the opportunities here, do you realize the significance of that decision they're going to make? It was kind of a profound experience from my part because everyone in that audience was extremely, extremely serious and focused, and I empathized with each and every one of them. But what a great job that I believe it was Casey Wallace from Student Services who put that together. I know there was a much larger team involved. I spoke with one of our staff who was participating in that with his child, and he said it was outstanding. So kudos to Student Services for making that happen. The more of those that we can do, the better off we'll be. On Saturday night, October 13th, we had the Hungarian State Folk Ensemble here. We had over 500 people that enjoyed dance troupe and music. It was my pleasure to host Ron and Kim Palsic. We joined to be a team of Slavs. And so it was outstanding. I know it's dry. It's a little dry. Thanks for laughing, because you were the only one that did. But what a great service to the community. And of course, Emily Behrman and that team provides those types of opportunities, and those will be going on from now through the spring. So we're very excited about that. And then on Sunday morning, we had Lace Up for Learning. I noticed there were no trustees in attendance at 8 o'clock Sunday morning, but several hundred people did show up, and at 8 a.m., and we had a 5K.
I thought it was at 6.
I didn't care about the time.
Next year. We'll do it next year. We're going to grow attendance. Special thanks to Judy Riley and Julie Haas and the entire team. Many of you were there and made it a very successful event. Dick mentioned earlier about hosting Senator Jeff Melcher and Representative Jerry Lunn. That was an extremely constructive afternoon. The folks who were a part of that were from Medical Technology, Deb Elder, the Health Information Technology Grant Program Director, and Dave Lingerfelt, Associate Professor, Chair for Health Information Systems. And then from Hospitality and Culinary, Ona Ashley, the Professor, Director of Hospitality Management. From the Healthcare Simulation Center, Kathy Carver, Professor, Nursing, and Rochelle Quinn, Associate Professor in Nursing, and along with their entire simulation team. And from BNSF, NARS, Jean Dotson-Altic, the Director for BNSF, and also Terry Murphy-Lotta, the Director from NARS. That whole focus, as we mentioned earlier, was about workforce development and what this college does to serve the community. And I have to say that every one of those members of staff, on staff, handled that extremely well, because there were a lot of questions asked, and they were pretty direct and pointed, and each one responded very professionally, and always makes you proud when you invite folks on campus. You never really know how that's going to go, and in this case, it was absolutely fantastic. The last couple days I spent in Topeka attending KBOR meetings, and there were two highlights. One, Foresight 2020, which is KBOR's initiative. It's a 10-year strategic agenda. Of course, this is under the leadership of Fred Logan and the other 8 regions. If you want to see metrics and you want to see a dashboard, they're setting the pace here. And I'll read you one aspiration. There are multiple aspirations, but this is one that it kind of hits home. Higher education attainment. They want to increase to 60% the number of Kansas adults who have a certificate, credential, associate's degree, or bachelor's degree, and we have till 2020 to do this. So you can see the emphasis on quantitative metrics to demonstrate how higher education is serving the state of Kansas. In many ways, it's all about return on investment, and what is the investment in higher ed returning to our state. Another aspiration was to achieve a 10 percentage point increase. That's not 10%, that's 10 points, in retention and graduation rates, something that we are also striving to do here. To measure that, they have 11 specific measurements to track progress on these two aspirations. So there's kind of a renewed spirit up in Topeka with KBOR among all the university presidents, chancellors, and the community college presidents and the technical college presidents as well, because it's kind of the new reality that all of higher education is having to confront these days. Another highlight of the KBOR meetings was the presentation of KU's strategic plan by Chancellor Bernadette Gray Little. Their strategic plan is entitled Bold Aspirations. And again, it's about focusing on metrics and demonstrating their ability to kind of how they can pursue these KBOR objectives, along with a variety of other things too. It's very well done. It was highly regarded by the regents and got a lot of praise. They've done several publications on this. I'm sure it's online. It was quite a process, and they did a fantastic job. So I believe Provost Vitter from KU is going to be visiting us, and I hope he has a chance to speak to some of us with regard to how they pursued their strategic plan and how they're implementing it, because they did a good job with it so far. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation, but now I'd like to go to the lightning round. If that's okay. Dr. Korb.
Yes, okay, well, I just have one thing that I want to highlight and talk to you about, which is the project that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has asked the Benchmarking Institute here at Johnson County Community College to pursue. And that would be under the direction of Patrick Russell Allison. And speaking of metrics, this fits right along with that, because what this project is, it's looking at ways to assist community colleges in analyzing costs based on activities. So it's an activity-based costing method that would separate out the actual costs of serving students from overhead costs and helping them look at how do we analyze that, how do we get better at that, how do we get more efficient at it. And so this is in conjunction with a Washington, D.C.-based research firm, American Institute for Research, and they have pulled together 3 advisory committees that consist of CEOs, CFOs, budget administrators, and researchers, where they have gone through and really looked at this and tried to define what would go into the model. And then in addition to that, in addition to the data collection, the Benchmarking Institute is actually doing the reporting system for this project. So it is well underway, and they are, in February, they will be rolling this out and actually publishing a book or a guide on how community colleges can implement this. And it is under, in case you see this again, it is under the title for the project is Maximizing Resources for Student Success. This is just one of 4 projects that the Benchmark Institute does, and it gives the college very good national visibility, but in addition to that, it actually generates revenue because all of the members of these different benchmarking projects pay subscriber fees. So Patrick's doing a great job, and this is one of the projects that we're working on under a grant with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So, yep.
Well, from metrics to NCISLA. If you follow NCISLA, you may wish to watch on October 29th. The TV show requested some props from the JCCC National Academy of Railroad Science, NARS, to be used in an episode scheduled to air on the 29th. The theme is a person of interest. I don't think it's Dr. Sopcich, but we don't know. Studying to become a train conductor. And they wanted some conductor student materials to place in the person's rooms. NARS sent some training manuals and student workbooks with the NARS logo strategically placed for visibility. So there will be a quiz at the next month meeting to see who spotted the symbol. But I'm sharing this for more than the simplistic level of it, isn't it neat? To illustrate the surprising, sometimes humorous, sometimes more serious ways by which we are connected to the world. JCCC is constantly involved in helping students understand and benefit from their connectivity to the world out there that is in fact always here and now. Today, learning involves students and faculty engaging in understanding the constant and visible interplay of values and symbols the world presents. We see that in the vessel you saw this evening. Over the past several months, I've tried to highlight this broad theme as it appears in diverse aspects of the college's academic mission, from hospitality and the culinary arts to a range of health occupations to video production. All of these areas have led students to encounter communities beyond the walls of the college. Tonight, I want to emphasize that the international or global aspect of our programs is not just about crossing formal borders and physically traveling to another place beyond our country, if you will, but the other places also involve the here and the now within the college's walls. For example, recently, Professor Samir Hussain presented a teaching module, The Political Economy of China, to the China Studies team that's visiting here that was visiting here from Hawaii. The module she created will be used as part of the curricula for the Introduction to International Business course. The journalism department will begin offering a new course, International Media, next fall. Along with these courses, we improve and update our standing curriculum. Professor Hewlin received a Perkins grant to develop ways to increase student employability. The project will specifically focus on creating industry connections and the network relationships for internships and scholarship opportunities for students in the marketing and management degree and certificate programs. The animation, entertainment, and game art design departments currently have 4 animation students interning at Burlington Northern Santa Fe Technical Training Center on the JCCC campus, creating 3D game art assets for an interactive training simulation for engineers and conductors. And the Brazilian Pictures recently hired 2 of our animation graduate students for full-time 3D artist positions. Brandon FX recently hired an animation graduate for a full-time visual effects position. The Public Relations and Advertising Club, an important part of our courses on advertising and public relations, will visit the ad agency of Bernstein Rhine this month and will help the agency strategize on projects the agency is developing. These examples emphasize the role JCCC plays in encouraging and connecting students' rich and varied talents with the needs and opportunities of the community. The word that I really want to stand out there is that of connectivity. We talk much about the 21st century skills. We're 13 years in, it's no longer coming, we're part of it. And I think the critical thing is realizing not just that the world is diverse and filled with opportunities, but that we are connected instantly. With everyone on their cell phones, I'm sitting here on my computer. I might be texting someone in China right now. I'm not, because I'm reading this here. But we are connected in ways that is absolutely astonishing. A few years ago, a protein that's involved in AIDS research was they were trying to figure out how to fold the proteins, and I'm way outside my area here. But the scientists have been working on that for a decade using computer models. They put it online in a gaming context, and gamers solved it in 2 weeks. Our connectivity to the world is really critical. And all these activities, from the work that the calculus faculty are doing to these other things, are not just teaching students bits and pieces, but trying to help students understand that they're connected here and now to a really rich and ever-changing and global world. And it's exciting to see the work that's going on, and that's what I hope to be sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Day.
We had a secret operation last week. Dr. Cook may know of it, but we hosted the Jamaican national team on campus. It was a quiet operation. Well, we did such a good job of hosting, they lost promptly to the United States national team on Friday night.
Soccer.
Yeah, it wasn't the bobsled team, yeah. It was something about the grass. I'll let that sink in. Also, we hosted a Diversidad conference last week. It was the first time we had done this on campus. It was to embrace our relationships with the Hispanic community in the area. As you would go through the MARC data, you can see that the Hispanic population is the fastest growing population. It's not the largest, but it's the fastest growing population. And one of those things is we need to reach out to the Hispanic community and understand the community and have the community understand us. And this was a very nice event to bring in community agencies and folks from all over the region to attend this conference and to hear what not only is happening within the Hispanic community, but also what's happening here at the college. So it's our way to reach out. Just to give you a feel for the statistics of it, in the last 5 years, our Hispanic population has grown over 40% on campus. It's gone from a little less than 5% of our total population to almost 7% in that 5 years. So it's one of the faster growing areas of it. And that would be it.
Thank you.
Dr. Cook, we did leave out one important event that happened, I think, several weekends ago, the annual Japan Festival that's held here on our campus. We host literally thousands of people from the area will come to celebrate the various aspects of Japanese culture. So it's always a big hit. It's a lot of fun.
Appreciate those reports. As many of you know, I'm with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and at our board retreat, we discussed the emerging changing of the international traveler and the influence we're having from the Asian countries and from Europe and South America, et cetera, as it relates to our business structure within Johnson County. And so it's good to hear the reports you're giving that kind of substantiate what we think is happening. So thank you very, very much. Is there any old business? I don't believe we have any tonight, and we do not have any new business, so we go to our reports from board liaisons. The first is the Kansas Association of Community College Trustees. We have not met since our last meeting. I reported that we had our board retreat in Arc City prior to our last board meeting. We're working on those initiatives. We have a monthly conference call with the executive committee. Our next meeting is in December, and if any of you would love to travel I don't remember where we're going.
Cali?
I don't remember where we're going in December, but we'll get that information to you at our November meeting so you can plan accordingly. So being I have no report, I will not entertain any questions. Johnson County Research Triangle, Trustee Musil.
Mr. Chair, the Johnson County Education Research Triangle met on September 30th at the KU Edwards campus. I met there Dr. Prema Arusa from the K-State Innovation Campus in Olathe. We had discussions about the upcoming audit that we do annually on the revenues that come in from the 1/8 cent sales tax that was passed in 2008. It's interesting because all of the institutions there have other funding sources, and the effort of this board is the board of the JCERT is to try to ensure that the sales tax revenues are spent only on those things for which they were legally authorized by the voters in 2008. New degrees being offered by the KU Edwards campus, funded by the tax. New research opportunities and research collaborations at the K-State Innovation Campus in food safety and related areas, and many more clinical trials and patient visits at the KU Clinical Research Center in Fairway. So those things are all good. I do want to respond for a moment. If you read the 913 section a week ago, Wednesday, in the Kansas City Star, the section that serves Johnson County, there was an editorial that suggested the JCERT board and the JCERT effort needed to be more transparent and accountable with the way the tax money was coming in and the way it was being spent. It was frustrating to those of us who had ever looked at the website for the Johnson County Research Triangle, and I would invite anybody in this room and anybody viewing to go to jocotriangle.com, a website that has been up for many years. The Star reported that if you did the In the News tab, you couldn't find anything about the financial either revenues or expenditures of JCERT or anything really about what the program was about. The chair of the JCERT board is the County Commission Chair, Ed Eilert, and Ed that same day responded to the Star suggesting that they look at tabs called The Triangle, which links you to all three universities and their efforts and a description of what they do and their budgets, or the Triangle History, which shows the history of the Triangle from when it was first thought about until the vote in 2008 and the revenues since then. Or you could go to the Meeting Information tab, which has the minutes of every meeting. They're available for anybody in the public who wants to see it. If you just happen to click on the Financial tab, you would find the audited financial statements for 2011, 2012. We don't yet have them for 2013, but you can find financial information for 2013. If you went to the About the Board tab, you could find out all the board members and what their role was. You might sense a little frustration in my voice, but it's one of those things where you would expect an editorial to do at least the basic homework before suggesting to taxpayers that there's not a way to figure out what their tax money has been spent for. So I would encourage anybody here, if you have questions about JCERT, see me or go to jocotriangle.com, and I think you'll find everything there is transparent and accountable. This brings in about $1.1 to $1.2 million a month, split between the KU Edwards campus, the K-State Innovation Campus, and the KU Cancer or Clinical Research Center. It has proven to be a very good project for facilities and programs, and I thought it was important to respond. You might also find on the front page of the website, the homepage, that the next board meeting open to the public is November 4th, 2013 at 7:30 a.m. at the KU Clinical Research Center, 4350 Shawnee Mission Parkway. So perhaps the editorial board members will attend. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Trustee Musil. Any questions regarding JCERT? Thank you very much. Next item is the Faculty Association report. As Dr. Williams is coming forward, I'd like to share that I had an opportunity to visit with Deb Williams and Ron Polsek, David Krug, Vin Clark, Jeff Anderson on Tuesday. We had a very nice dialogue about issues and appreciated that time, Debbie.
Likewise, thank you, Trustee Cook. Well, first I'd like to acknowledge, I haven't done this in a while, there's a lot of faculty members in the audience, Ron Pausick, Andrea Broomfeld, Vin Clark, John Russell, Molly Baumgardner, and hopefully I didn't miss anyone. Nancy Carpenter. Thank you. How could I miss Nancy? She was just up here. Well, first I'd like to start by welcoming back Trustee Drummond. It's a pleasure to have you back, and if it didn't leak, I would toast you with the newly created vessel by the calculus class. Well, if they haven't informed you that we have a lot of work to do, and we look forward to working with you and the rest of the trustees throughout the year. So I guess if past is prologue, you can expect me to report that it's been a very active month for the Faculty Association, so I'm here to do that. It has been, and as you've already heard referenced, it's also been a very active month for our representative groups, including the FA, Faculty Senate, and Educational Affairs Committee. As also has been referenced this evening, our faculty have been engaged in amazing activity that impacts the college and the community, and I will feature a couple of those at the end of my report. But if I had to articulate a theme for this month, it would be communication. And so what I've done is I broke my presentation into three parts. One is on the subject of faculty administration communication, trustee faculty communication, and also faculty communication. And so on the subject of faculty administration communication, it's ongoing and improving, and we certainly have a lot to discuss over the rest of the year. I think there was a reference to the reading readiness discussion and how that actually in the beginning seemed to have represented some frustrated communication, but it is much improved given the number of meetings and dialogue that had occurred about that particular topic. So I think, my sense is that we are at a place where we can fully appreciate not only a teachable moment with regard to respect for procedure, but also realities associated with the merits of something like a reading readiness, but also the realities of what possibilities there are available to us to get us to a different place than what we are in the short period of time, but we look forward to continuing communication about how to make that particular topic more palatable to a lot of the different groups who have weighed in, mostly in the form of listserv communication throughout the day. Today, the Faculty Association listserv in particular was abuzz with comments about that topic, but there are other topics of concern as well. I should reference that we have a Faculty Association meeting scheduled on Monday, and I know Dr. Sobczak will be there, and it's open meeting. Everyone's certainly welcome to join us, but some of the topics that will be discussed include certainly the reading readiness to the extent that there are more issues or comments around that topic, but program review, our ongoing effort to clarify the discipline area, strategic planning, key performance indicators, and so there's a lot happening that faculty and administration are working together towards a better, one college, one community, one goal kind of presence. With regard to faculty communication, I would say this month I'd give it an A. It's been excellent. We've had 2 of our 3 bodies have met twice. We've had emergency meetings or special meetings with both the Faculty Senate and the Educational Affairs Committee. As issues came up, we kind of launched into opportunities for faculty to discuss those relevant topics, and the Faculty Association will meet Monday, as I mentioned, for our regularly scheduled October meeting, but we also have a special meeting planned to address that clarification of the discipline area task, and so that will be later in the week on Thursday, and we've invited chairs into the discussion. It's an open meeting as well, but we certainly will start that important process of having a discussion with faculty about those changes to the master agreement. Faculty communication, as Trustee Cook mentioned, myself and other members of the Faculty Association and Senate met, and we also had an opportunity, a couple of us met with Greg Musil, Trustee Musil, earlier, actually the end of the previous week, separate meetings, and talked a lot about opportunities for communication between faculty and trustees, and we actually, in the more recent meeting with Trustee Cook, agreed happily to resurrect collegial steering with a trustee presence. In the past, historically, as many probably know, it was a committee that was representative of administration, faculty, and trustees, and so I think we are all on the same page that that would be a good forum, again, to return trustee presence to have discussions about topics of mutual interest and kind of give a heads up both ways about matters of importance to all parties concerned, and we look forward to having those regular meetings. Usually in the past, they've been the day of the board meetings. We're thinking about possibly doing it prior to, but not the day of meetings, and having those important discussions. So I think communication certainly was the theme this month, and as always, I always invite discussion, and so let's keep talking and keep moving forward toward that one college, one community, one goal. I think the faculty are willing to do its part to embrace this unified mission to keep JCCC in the place it is in terms of being student-centered, but moving forward in terms of maintaining excellence and its obviously community-impacting presence, which is a nice transition into the things I'd like to focus on that represent faculty activity and whole program activities on this campus. In no particular order, I'm just looking at things that are in my pile of things to mention. At the end of the month, actually, we have an event called Epicenter. It's on October 30th, and this is a sustainability conference that will highlight a lot of different aspects of sustainability. It will bring people to our campus from KU to feature important sustainability topics such as the biodiesel, KU Biodiesel Initiative. Also, we have a sustainable restaurant intern on our campus currently that's an enrollee of the JCCC culinary department. We have Mike Ryan, our campus farm manager, who will talk about the farm and all of the impacts it has made on our campus throughout its existence. But also, and I will use a Jeff Anderson phrase, get this, we will have a keynote speaker, and her name is Summer Rain Oaks, who will talk about sustainable fashion design. And I think that's going to be an interesting new feature to emphasize with sustainability that will also include our fashion merchandising program, and I think it'll be a real positive and very popular event that will be attended by many students and community members alike. That is on October 30th, and my notes have 9 to 2:30 in the Rainier Center, and in the past we've actually kind of had it on the first level of the Rainier Center in the kind of Capitol Federal Room area. Maybe the speakers will have other locations announced, but that's the best information I have at this time. The Rainier Center is captured throughout the day for those events. Another thing I'd like to mention, this is actually features 2 adjunct instructors. We have Jane Stock and Farrell Hobb Janoy, or Hoy Janoy, Janab, excuse me, who will be hosting a new initiative, the Indian American Book Club. And so it's the culture of India is a focus of this year-long book club, and just reading through the the website information about this particular initiative. This is really interesting to me because it features diversity, it features adjunct faculty members, obviously literacy and diversity awareness building, and I really look forward to actually participating in that book club when I am available to do so. As Joe already, or Dr. Sopcich already mentioned, we have the Japan Festival that occurred earlier in the month. And last but not least, I should feature our very own Andrea Broomfeld, who will be a college scholar, who will give college scholar program presentations, including a historical culinary tour at the end of next week, which will actually involve a walk through the downtown Kansas City area 18th and Vine Jazz District, and she'll be talking about the importance of food and jazz music culturally in this particular part of our state. And her formal presentation will be 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 29th, and the title of the talk is Jazz, Barbecue, and Beyond, What Kansas City's Historic Restaurants Tell Us About KC's Culture and Legacy. So with that, I'd like to conclude my report and take any questions that you might have at this time.
Dr. Williams, thank you. I know you're involved with a lot of activities, and there's a lot of budget discussions, there's a lot of other discussions, but we really appreciate the balance of all the reports you had and hearing of all the activities. As was mentioned earlier, we have a lot of outstanding people doing outstanding things every day, and we appreciate you taking time to share that with us. Any questions of Dr. Williams? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This is the time for our consent agenda. The consent agenda includes a number of items in routine in nature. Are there any items that any trustee would like to pull from the consent agenda? Any items to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do have an executive session this evening. I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing security presentation. This session will last about 30 minutes. No action will be taken during this session. We would like to invite Joe Sopcich, Terry Schleich, Judy Korb, Tanya Wilson, Dennis Day, Andy Anderson, Alyssa Pacer, Tom Clayton, Randy Garcia, and Rec Hayes. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The executive session will start at, we'll give you 7 minutes, 6:20. And we'll start at 6:20 and then go for 30 minutes. Thank you. We have returned from executive session. No action was taken. We're back in our original meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.